Hi, listeners. I'm Irene Barton, Executive Director of the Cobb Collaborative, and I welcome you to our podcast, Mind Your Mind Speaks. Our conversations are all about bringing together subject matter experts, community leaders, and local stakeholders to raise awareness, share resources, and inspire action through recorded conversations about the Cobb Collaborative's focus areas. Today, we are delighted to welcome Chief Moonhawk of the Yamassee-Guale Nation to our program. We're going to learn a lot more about the chief and his people and how our paths crossed during this conversation. And also, I'm so delighted that also joining us is Jacob Rogers, our Vote Your Voice coordinator. But before we dive into the conversation, let's allow each of our guests, well, Jacob, you're not really a guest, but to say hello and briefly introduce yourselves to our audience. So, Chief, why don't we start with you? Just a brief introduction.
Right. Tomo, Katalapu. I need to say, yo, make a note. How you doing? My name is Chief Mohawk. There's a greeting we say, Tomo, and more specifically, my dialect is Katalapu. It's just my relative. So we just say, greeting my relative. Nitlasia Kia Yok, Mikonope is my traditional name. So in our languages, Nitlasia Kia Yok means moonhawk, and Mikonope means young chief. So I'm a young chief. My name is Moonhawk, and I give you much greetings. Greetings and peace to you all.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. I could never do all of that enunciation that you did. So I'm so glad that it's you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm honored. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Jacob, team member, how about an introduction of yourself, Jacob, to our listeners?
Thank you so much, Irene. Just like Irene stated, I am the Vote Your Voice program coordinator for the Cobb Collaborative. I started with the organization back in February, and hopefully I've made it my own, Irene. My one interesting fact that I like to tell people is that I married my high school sweetheart. We had been together since junior year of high school. We moved to Marietta, Georgia in February of 2024, and we got married last September. Any other interesting facts? Asked me about 2 weeks ago, I would have said that I had a green thumb, but unfortunately, due to Georgia's crazy weather, my crops are having a really rough time.
Well, unfortunately, I don't think you're alone. I think many farmers in Georgia and across the country are suffering from heat dome, fertilizer cost, you name it. Being in the agricultural industry is not for the faint of heart. That is for sure. So, well, welcome to you both, and thank you so much for joining us. Of course, Jacob, I'm not sure you have much of a choice, but but let's start. Jacob already filled us in on how he and his wife met, but now we're going to talk about how Jacob and Chief Moonhawk met. And Jacob, I believe that you were attending the first day of the special session at the Gold Dome in June when you happened upon Chief Moonhawk. And I think the chief had another one or two tribal members with him. But can you describe the atmosphere of the Gold Dome on that first day of the special session? From what I saw from like video clips and sound bites, it looked like there was a lot of energy going on all levels of the Gold Dome. And not primarily because I think one of the legislative priorities on that day was a mid-decade redistricting. So, Jacob, fill us in a little bit. Paint the picture for us about what it felt like to be at the Capitol on the first day of the special session.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. So, just as a little bit of background, we were there as a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization for the first day of the special session, mainly doing light press type activities. This was also my first day at the Gold Dome, so you can imagine my excitement, my apprehension going up into the day. Redistricting was the headline issue of the day, and you could really feel it. There were legislators, advocacy groups, reporters, all kinds of individuals that were all convening inside of the main halls right outside of the committee rooms. And honestly, it felt like being a part of a movie. The energy, the community, it's truly hard to put it into words how amazing it felt. When you're in the Capitol, there's this sort of hum and energy that comes with some of these bigger days whenever something huge like this happens. And it truly feels like being a part of history.
Excellent. So you're in this very momentous occasion, as you said, the first time you had the opportunity to visit the Gold Dome in your role with us. And somewhere along the way, you meet up with Chief Moonhawk and you two struck up a conversation. So I'm going to ask Jacob first for you to share how that went at the beginning, and then we'll ask Chief Moonhawk to give his reflective comments as well. So, Jacob?
Yes, ma'am. So we ran into Chief Moonhawk and Lightning Arrow in the main atrium right after, Senator Warnock spoke, I believe. And as a nonpartisan organization, we have no position when it comes to redistricting. But because it was such a big issue for so many individuals, it was important for us to show up and make sure people's voices were heard. We were doing multiple interviews, and we were mainly trying to do it in front of the Jimmy Carter portrait, pulling whoever we could possibly talk to. And it just happened that Chief was one of the only people who said yes, and we're extremely grateful that he did.
So, Chief, is that how you remember that what sounds like incredibly hectic but very exhilarating day?
Absolutely. That day was it was a surreal moment for me because I've been to the Capitol a few times, but this moment was more special because it's really for advocacy and to show representation for smaller minority communities whose voices need to be heard and need to be seen with how things are with our district. So redistricting was a very big issue for me because I live in the city of Atlanta. I live in a historical Black neighborhood, and that would affect how we vote. It would affect how our money's been spent for our communities and how we can advocate. So it was important that I support not only myself and my community and my tribe, but I support our sponsor there, who's out of District 122, Spencer Fry. So it was an honor to just meet with the legislator that I met with. And also, of course, meet Jacob, a phenomenal guy, and I'm glad he's able to just give us an interview, just talk about what's going on with that day, because very, very hectic. There was a lot of events going on that day, but it was a very momentous day for, I think, Georgians, just to understand that our voices should be heard and be expressed, and that it's important that minority communities are able to have the districts and the funding and the words and their opinions respected and seen inside of Georgia. So it's an honor. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. And that really is sort of the foundation of our Vote Your Voice work, making sure that um, underrepresented and historically marginalized voices have the opportunity to have their voices heard, not only on election day, but throughout the year. So it was our good fortune that you two ended up in the same place. But Chief, I'm going to wager that most of our listeners haven't had the pleasure of learning about your tribe's history and your current journey. If we could start with the history of your people and the Yamassee-Guale's place, and I apologize if I am mispronouncing that name, please do correct me. But your tribe's place in Georgia's history as a amateur history buff myself, I am just fascinated by all of this. So, Chief, ground us a little bit in the history of your people and your tribe.
Absolutely. So, regarding to our tribe, the Yamassee-Guale people are our first contact tribe here in the state of Georgia. First being contacted by the first waves of the Spanish conquistadors, first sighted in 1526. They were the first settlement of Spanish conquistadors coming up from northern Florida. They ended up in what we know that is Chichesi territories that stretch from South Georgia to North Georgia. And on this journey, they met who they called the Guale people. This time, this is the Guale chiefdom, and amongst that, our ancestors, didn't allow these Spanish to set up a colony as of yet. So they came back in the 1550s, 1560s, and later on and established colonies, and what we know today as Guale towns or Guale chiefdom. So with these chiefdoms, their job was to convert, the Wale people to Christianity, along with those things to do trades and goods. And once they figured out that we didn't have any goals or any valuables that they wanted, they pretty much used us as a bartering system to, gather food and goods for them so they can go back to the King of Spain at the time and to do goods and trades. Where the Yamassee come in is in the early 1600s, when the Wale chiefdom began to break up, there was a inner war with the Yamassee people, which was a town at the time and not an actual nation of the Wale people. And once the Wale people broke up and the Yamassee people come out of a town of Wale, that became its own nation. So we honor the Wale descendants, our Wale bloodline, until the current day, the current present name, which is Yamassee, which is the first contact tribe. The Yamassee people had an upper and a lower that stretched from Georgia to South Carolina and parts of North Florida. So with this chiefdom, there's up and lower. We had over 10 different towns and villages. In the present 1600s and later, before we had, I think there were more than a dozen, more than 20 different villages that stretched from, you could say, northeast Georgia, southeast Georgia, southwest Georgia, on the coast of the Savannah River with South Carolina, and of course, northeastern Florida. So we had a large chiefdom, and unfortunately, the Yamassee people had to endure slavery, had to endure tribalism amongst other tribes, dealing with the Creek tribes and Cherokee tribes. There were Catawba, so we were going a lot of tribal warfare amongst each other, and unfortunately that led us down the 1715 Yamassee War. And after the 1715 Yamassee War ended around 1717, 1718, the Yamassee people were still alive. We almost conquered parts of South Carolina. With that being said, after that, we were displaced. There was a treaty called it's called the Creek Treaty of 1718, but that treaty belongs to the Yamassee people, belongs, a few other treaties that our people fought for and died for. But after the 1715 Yamassee War, the Yamassee people were escaping slavery. That was the cost of war. We went to war with the Europeans, and if you lost, which a lot of us did lose, you put into plantations, tobacco plantations, cotton plantations, rice plantations in South Carolina. So the ones who were able to escape the initial wave of plantations, they fled to what we know today, back to Georgia, which is our homeland, from Savannah to Valdosta to Augusta. We also have small villages in Columbus, Georgia. We have a small village right outside the city of Atlanta. We were just scattered. We was in warfare. But majority of us, a good amount of us, would travel to North Florida and then would come to participate in the Seminole Wars. And before the Seminole Wars, there were still Yamassee people as a town that spread up to St. Petersburg, Tallahassee, Jacksonville area. Like our people were just, escaping slavery. The ones who were fortunate, but the ones who weren't fortunate, when they captured, head men and head women of the tribes, you were put into slavery and you were used as a bartering system. That was it. So dealing with that, talking about the Yamassee people is a ongoing journey of undoing history and really putting history back out to Georgia history, because the Yamassee people, not being only being a first contact tribe, we have a unique history with Georgia because thanks to Chief Tomachichi, who's an ancestor of our Yamassee people, he helped write the 1732 Treaty of Savannah, which dealt with James Oglethorpe, that created the colony of Georgia in 1732. With that treaty, James, in his book, and of course using peer research scholars and a lot of historians, which is clear that that Chief Tomachichi, he was of Yamassee descent. He created a new town called Yamassee-Guale. So you also hear that Chief Tomachichi the Yamassee Creek, Yamassee as well. The Yamassee was only a smaller village than Yamassee because Chief Chichi, he was unfortunately kicked out of his original town by the Lower Creeks, who also spoke Kichiti, which is a southern dialect that we speak. Of course, with the nuances of that, he created Yamassee, come out of the Yamassee Brook and off the Savannah River, which is now known as Savannah. Right?
Okay.
So there's just a little bit of
that. Such a rich and multi-layered history. And I find it so fascinating because I think living in this part of Georgia, certainly having two children who went through the public school system, you hear about Cherokee Creek Indian,
right.
or first, excuse me, indigenous peoples,
right.
but not and my mother lives in the low country of South Carolina. And as you were talking, Chief, she lives in the Beaufort area. I'm like, I know when I'm traveling some of the back roads to visit her, when I try to not avoid the interstate, like I have seen the signs for some of these places that you were talking about. So
absolutely.
yeah.
Especially South Carolina. You have Yamassee, South Carolina. A lot of my
Yes.
ancestors come from Beaufort all the way up to Asheville, South Carolina. So
Yeah.
I'm very well versed in Yamassee history. But dealing with the background, like you said, for example, you go to Beaufort, South Carolina, you're going to run into the Stockahatchee village. You're going to run into the Pocatellico village. You're going to run into a lot of the Yamassee villages in their old town names are still on road.
Yes.
So it's still the descendants are still there. It's just the nation isn't there. For lack of better words.
Yes, love it. All right. So much happened in the 16th and 17th centuries. Well, really 14th through 17th centuries, and bookend, add a century or two on either end of that. Now let's bring it up to the modern day. You and your fellow leaders are on a quest, right, for formal recognition by the state of Georgia. So correct me if I'm wrong with that. And I know from just a brief conversation that you and Jacob and I had a few days ago that that's actually quite a lengthy and involved process. So can you talk a little bit about this journey that the 21st century tribal leaders are on?
Absolutely. It's a wonderful day in Indian country, as we like to say, to be able to put our nation back into the forefront in front of people to let them know that we are living people. We are breathing people. We have continued, we have endured not only through slavery, not only through colonialism, not only through the modernization of Americans. We have endured all eras and phases of what American is and what Georgia is. So the importance of fighting for state recognition, I had to get permission first. So the elders and the matriarchs of my nation, they said this is the proper way to not only put our nation back into the forefront, but to say that hey, this is Georgia history and that it should be recognized by Georgians. And, and this isn't a monetary gain. We didn't go out this way for monetary involvement, for fiscal involvement. This is purely just to allow the state of Georgia to rewrite its wrongdoing.
Yeah.
Like you just said briefly, the only history you hear about in Georgia is the Cherokee and the Creek. And that's the issue because Georgia had a multitude of tribes. Georgia had many Creek tribes because Creek is a confederation. So there you had, in Georgia, you had at least 12 different upper and lower different tribes that made the Creek Confederation up, now nation. Then you had Yamassee, you had Wale, you had Yuchi, you had Westo. These are different nations who speak who speak their own language. They had their own history. They had their own culture. So me fighting as representation for the nation, fight for state recognition isn't just a fight alone. This is the fight for all the descendants who come from those other nations to be able to have pride and be able to stand up and say, you know what, I am a descendant of these people, and we should have a voice. We should be able to have a place in Georgia history. So the fight is definitely a hard fight, and it's multi-layered because you have to go through the Georgia Council of American Indians Concerns here in Georgia. That's that is the organization that the General Assembly has assigned that all tribes must go through them before going for state recognition. So the process is historicity, is membership, is government structure, geographical area, and ethnic identity. So as a nation, we have to show hundreds, if not thousands, of documentation of historicity, of how our membership structure is set up, how government government section is set up. We had to show proof that we reside in our geographical location, our area, and that the Georgia, that Yamassee-Guale people actually come from Georgia, along with ethnic identity. We have to show and prove that how do we get dark skin? How do we get this shade? How are we proving who we are? So we have to show clear and uncut proof and documentation that we meet these qualifications in order for us to move forward. Thankfully, with hard work and dedication from my council, was able to present these documentations to the council for them to review and for them to get an opinion. But with that opinion, it isn't the end all be all because in the state of Georgia, the the sole the sole vote lies with the assembly, which I'm thankful for because it gives the opportunity for the state of Georgia and the representatives and senators the opportunity to make a fair vote on our people and a fair adjustment on the history that we presented to the council and to themselves directly.
Okay. Give us a feel, Chief, for how long you've already been working on this and what you project the overall timeline to be. And when you receive this formal recognition, like, is that the end or is there still additional steps that have to be taken? And I apologize. I know that's about 3 questions in one.
Absolutely. So the first question is,
How long?
how long? We've been fighting for our whole lives. And this is a fight that's been going on generations. The issue has been that, dealing with the Yamassee history and understanding that a lot of our history is tied to slavery and colonial laws, that you have to separate the Indian from slavery. That's the main issue. So once we had many families, a select group of families, being to separate how they were Yamasee, how they were put into slavery, how they were able to continue the history through thorough documentation. Now we began the process of that. So now we've been doing this. This is a generational thing. This isn't a number thing. I just been allotted the position to say, you know what, I'm going to take it the next step further and get all the documentation together. Because of course, a lot of our people have stigmatized the government, unfortunately. So we don't want. So for a good while, many generations prior, how they did our people, not honoring the treaties, not honoring the census, not honoring the agreements that our people made with the government, it made them apprehensive to work with the government. So now I have the opportunity and the wherewithal to say, you know what, hey, let's not be scared of the government. Let's work in tandem with the government by one showing our documentation, who we are, what we are. Of course, it's about having to have proof, showing continuation, showing that hey, we can have a better outcome with the government, with the state of Georgia, as long as we know how to play the game, play the system. So thankfully, I've been well versed and coached in many peers, many elders in my tribe that I've been in a position to navigate a better relationship amongst the Yamassee people with the state of Georgia and its constituents.
Okay. Okay.
So the other question was
Well, is there like
a timeline?
a timeline, or it's going to take as long as it takes, and the nation understands that? I'm not going to say you accept it, but you understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a life.
5 years, 5 years, 10 years, two years.
We don't have any. We don't have an estimated time because then we set us up a failure. We've been fighting for generations, for hundreds of years. So we're not in a hurry.
Yeah. Okay.
We're not. Bashful or trying to work. Because this isn't a monetary thing. This is a true way to correct the wrongs that Georgia has made with this tribe. And understand the Yamassee people was documented here. We were alive. We are in the archives. We are in the Indian section of the archives. There's plenty of documentation of us, so we just want to be done right. This isn't a timeline. Well, if we don't get it in 5 years or 2 years, we're going to quit. We're going to continue to fight as long as our people are alive.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
Whenever we get it, we get it. And we'll be thankful for it so we can have a better relationship with the state of Georgia and be able to put our history back into the school system, put our history back into the public parks, the mounds, any traditional and Native American history. We want to basically just show that our people was here and do not only for my people. We're going to properly represent the other tribes that are speak of the Uchis, the Westos, the Apalachicolas. You know, these are other nations here in Georgia that we want to make sure we also present because this is Georgia history. This Georgia history isn't just about two tribes. There are many tribes, and we should be respectful to all tribes to make sure we put all their names in Georgia history. So that's my job as a chief right now.
I love the way you explain that. Thank you so much, Chief. So, if someone is interested in being a part of this journey with you, learning more, I don't know if there are opportunities to like help with research and things like that. Do you have contact info, a website? How do people learn more about you and your work?
Absolutely. So if you guys want to learn more about me as the chief right now and learn more about our people and our tribe, we have a website called YAMASSEE-GUALE.org, Yamassee-Guale.org. It'll take you to our website. We have we update it all the time about any current events we're doing. I'm doing another lecture, so within the next month or two, I will be doing another lecture, trying to figure out the time and the place for that. But we have powwows coming in, and we're going to attend. We have many events. So the best way is to go to our website, and then the website will link you to our social media platforms. Our Instagram platform is official YGNOG. So it's just an abbreviation of Yamassee-Guale Nation of Georgia. That is our Instagram page. Our Facebook page is the Yamassee-Guale Nation of Georgia. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We have a YouTube account that we upload our videos and interactions we have done, either in the tribal setting or in a more political setting that we do. We have a YouTube account, which all these links will be on our website.
Okay. And don't worry, listeners, we'll drop all of that in the show notes to make it really easy. So thank you so much for that. So Jacob, I want to thank you for sure for bringing Chief Moonhawk into the collaborative family and helping to expand our view of what civic engagement really looks like. As we do think about making sure all voices are heard, not only at the voting booth on election day, but 365 days a year throughout our annual journeys here. What thoughts do you have about ensuring that Indigenous voices are heard?
Yes, ma'am. So after speaking with Chief, this is something that's genuinely been a mental shift for me when it comes to civic engagement.
Yeah.
My job is voter education, making sure people are registered, making sure they know how to vote, knowing what's on their ballot. But civic visibility starts before election day. It's whether or not a community's history or existence is even recognized. So for us, being part of making sure all voices are heard at the voting booth means actively seeking out these communities that have been overlooked for so long. And Indigenous communities in Georgia absolutely are part of that conversation.
Yeah, so true. So true. Thank you for that perspective. I love the way you phrased it, Jacob, because I also feel like I've been fortunate to have a mental shift from the first time you came back and told me about the chief and showed me the pictures, and I saw it on our social. I was like, wow, this is like history in the making as the chief addresses history, right? So, well, gentlemen, as our time together draws to a close, I'll offer an invitation for any final remarks. I know there is so much more that we could talk about, but just anything that you want to be sure to leave our listeners with? I'll let you flip a coin as to who goes first.
I can go first if that's all right. I mainly just wanted to say thank you to Chief for having the trust in the COP Collaborative to tell this story, to help bring it to our listeners. And the partnership has really expanded how the COP Collaborative views civic engagement. I just want to thank you so much for that, Chief.
Yeah.
It's the honor, and I appreciate not only Irene, Miss Irene, and Jacob, the whole COP collective, just on being present at the Capitol and understanding the importance of what you said, civil engagement, and allowing people to tell their history and their story. Just me for an example, it's more than an appreciative moment for me, a thankful moment, because I was able to, one, inform the people, but also address the current issues with voter redistricting and how that affects minority community. So just you having a wonderful platform and you being in the right space at the right time is phenomenal. I think a message I would leave with the people is one, have an open mindset and allow the people who are saying we shown and proved the documentation. We continually fight for what our nation needs and has, and understand this is a lifelong fight. It's a lifelong journey, and we take it with great care, and that we continue to stay connected with our ancestors and our practices as Yamassee-Guale descendant. But besides that, in my language, we say, the clase que yo, itimoklayate, commend to you all. I'm Chief Mohawk, and it was a pleasure to be on this platform.
Well, I'm so excited that the COP Collaborative is going to be able to play a small role in raising awareness, educating stakeholders, and just helping to tell the story and watch the journey and assist in every way possible. So thank you. Unfortunately, I only speak one language, and on some days I'm not even that great with English, so I'm just going to say thank you.
Absolutely. It's Ilisku. My language, the same welcome is Ilisku. So we say Ilisku Yate. We thank you and your family for it. Just the opportunity and having a break and a mission with, the dialogue amongst each other.
Wonderful. Well, we've thanked each other for sure. And listeners, the last thing that we want to do, of course, is to thank you for tuning in today. To be sure that you don't miss any future episodes, please subscribe to our Mind Your Mind Speaks podcast. Also, leave us a review on whatever platform you listen to us. It really helps others find us, and it helps to provide structure and feedback for us as we think about future conversations. Plan to tune in next time as we continue to empower and engage all of our community members through conversations about these really important and critical issues that so many in our community are addressing. Until next time, please stay well, be kind, and remember there is no health without mental health.